everybody, welcome. I'm your host, Jason Patterson, here with Dudley Dawson and the Razorback Baseball Report. Dudley, how'd you sleep last night?
What I did sleep, I slept well. Hard. The late night at Bogle, as they say. Finally got done with my story about, and got home. I got done with my story about 2:30. I had to watch the fourth quarter of the Boston Celtics game on tape there. So went to bed, sleeping pretty well after watching that. I wouldn't have, I'm sure, if Philadelphia had ousted.
Yeah, last night, there was a pitcher's duel last night. It's kind of like a part two from what happened back in late March with Shanice in Montana. And both of those student athletes, they just kept competing. They just would not give in to the other.
Yeah, Montana Fouts and Shanice Dells are two of the best pitchers in the country. They showed that again last night, even though Shanice had to grit and grind her way through. Obviously, Montana Fouts got hurt there late, and she's probably done for the SEC tournament because that was kind of going to be Patrick Bradley, the Alabama coach, Murphy, excuse me. The Alabama coach is playing anyway. But, certainly a high-level game, and the crowd was electric, as you well know from being there last night. And, there were a lot of comments about that. It was a great setting for college softball, excuse me. Certainly both of those teams, I think, can go a ways in the NCAA tournament if they get the right, schedule and teams coming to them. I obviously think Arkansas will get to host a regional. Super regional teams would be kind of out of reach now, but the regional should be back there, and they'll get to have some more games at Bogle this year.
Yeah,
and then that on Sunday.
And so Sunday, 7 o'clock on ESPN will be the NCAA softball selections show. So, like I said, I was out there too, and this game, it felt like it was honestly, it was for all the marbles. It kind of felt like, it was one of those that when that first pitch started, you could see some of the tenseness from some of the younger players. And Courtney touched on that in a press conference, that it took them a little while to get back within themselves. And this is going to help going forward. This is going to help in regionals and crunch time if they make it to super regionals and crunch time. And
I think you could see that. One of the things that, in going back over the box score last night I saw was, I knew there were wild pitches. I didn't realize there were 8 during the game, 5 from Arkansas and 3 from Alabama. And what's amazing is Alabama strands 13, Arkansas strands 11. It was 1-0 for so long, then 1-1 and then 3-1 3-2, obviously the final. But there was a lot of traffic on the base pass, and both pitchers, and I wanted, Hannah Kamazine came in as well, and as did Salter for Alabama. And you have to give them a lot of credit for keeping the score as low as it was. Some great defensive plays, some great pitching, but it was strange. There were 8 wild pitches in that game.
When we have 8 wild pitches in a game, you tend to see the game be a 13-10, 12-8 game. This was 3-2 in extra innings. This went to the 9th inning.
Yeah, and it went, to the 9th inning ostensibly because of Reagan Kramer making plays in left field, and then Reagan Johnson hosing Faith Hensley at the plate. There too. And I thought once she threw out Faith Hensley at the plate, Arkansas came back and tied that in the bottom of the 6th. Obviously, did not get anything out of bases loaded situations in the 6th and 7th. Got a run and had the tie, the go-ahead runs on base there in the 9th. Just as Patrick Murphy called it, a college World Series type game. It just happened to happen in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, what was so interesting to me is I looked down and it was 11:45. There were so many people still at Bogle. That last inning and a half, I had to stand because there were so many people around. I could not see the field. So I was having to stand for most of the last half of that game. And one of the things that I felt like you could feel the crowd. I don't know how it was in the press box, but I know in the crowd, whenever we were waiting to see if Ryland Hedgecock had legged out that that single at first, everybody was on pins and needles. Everybody was talking about it. They were clamoring about it. And one of the things that I'm rewatching it also on my TV, like we're talking about, she made it there in the nick of time, just right before the ball got to the glove. And when you don't have, when you can't see the replay like that, it really creates almost kind of like a pandemonium almost.
Yeah, and it was phenomenal. Some of the moves that the coaches made, I thought. You didn't want Alabama's big hitter, to she ended up scoring on the double, but they walked around Hannah Gamble. Gave her an intentional walk there. I believe it was in the 7th or 8th. They run together. That turned out to be a good move. Casey Hoffman's had a really good year, but I'm sure that the analytics say if you've got a preseason All-American, even if she's struggled at the plate a little this year, you go ahead and put her on base. She had ripped the ball a couple of times hard, and the double that ended up scoring, was ripped down that line by a young lady who had struck out the previous 3 times against Shanice. And so, you got to give her credit for hanging in there and making a clutch hit there. I will say that I did have told my wife, Patriot, today that I need some quiet. I love the energy and chants that the softball teams bring, but man, sometimes you just had to shut it down for a second. But great energy. But I listened to that for 6-7 hours yesterday, probably more than that. And great energy. I'm saying, just sometimes you got to get kids get out of my yard.
Yeah, no, and you see Alabama, and they move on, and they're going to be playing Florida here in a little bit. I do believe at 5:30. And you've got South Carolina, which shocked Georgia yesterday. And they're going to be taking on Tennessee at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And you kind of wonder if Alabama's going to have enough in the tank after going so late today, turning back around in such a quick turnaround. Do you see possibly if, say, for instance, if Alabama and Tennessee do make that final, do you see them actually having that type of an epic battle that Arkansas and Alabama had last night?
Yeah, and they had some really good games during the regular season as well, and so you certainly would expect to see one again. I don't think Montana Fouts is going to pitch, so you'd certainly have to give Tennessee the edge there if it gets to that. But it just is. It's just going to be an interesting deal. Sometimes it's who's left standing at the end in terms of injuries and stuff.
I have to make a quick correction there, Dudley. Tennessee and Alabama play after Auburn, South Carolina, which started at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I was double checking on that. I thought that was right too. And both of those games are on ESPN2 this afternoon. I know Jessica Mendoza is joining who was on ESPN's baseball tonight, and on their Sunday night games is joining the announcers today. So
it's going to be a big deal at Bogle this afternoon. So let's move on real quick. You got a top 5 or top 10 matchup this weekend between Arkansas, South Carolina. Both teams are kind of going both teams are going in opposite ways. Arkansas swept the last 2 series. South Carolina's lost the last 2 series.
Yeah, and South Carolina's pitching has been the thing that has kind of let them down. They've had almost an ERA of 10 in those last 2 series that you mentioned, where they've lost 6 in a row. Arkansas, obviously has swept us 2-1 here and 1 on the road. You got to give them a lot of credit. Both teams have battled pitching injuries this year. Arkansas is getting some of its guys back healthy, obviously. South Carolina has been hit hard. Their top 2 pitchers, won't be pitching in this series. Their opener tonight, their starting pitcher tonight, has only had 4 starts the whole year. And so, you could have the opportunity to rattle him and maybe a little bit, with the ball marker crowd. Now, I say that, and I look out and I'm sure that there's going to be some rain or weather. I just hope that it either rains it out before they start,
Yeah.
or it doesn't rain during the game. And I certainly, at this point in the week, when we're in a mix of 6 games in 6 days, don't need any extra innings, don't need any postponements, anything like that. But we'll see what Mother Nature has for us.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you on that one. If it's going to rain out, let's rain it out early. I don't want to go through a 4-hour rain or lightning delay, kind of like what softball did on Wednesday. And you know what? What approach is Dave Van Horn this weekend going to have with Tavian Josenberger?
You and I talked about this a little bit last night. We'll see, how it plays itself out. He could DH. I think that might be the best situation because, you would hate for him to re-injure things running down balls in center field. But if he is cleared to play, he will be cleared to play center field. I think the medical people who make those decisions, do a great job at the University of Arkansas. And you have to think about the young man, but at the same time, you're here to win. You're here to win games. And if he's ready to play, then I'm sure he'll be out there in center field. It'll be nice having him back at the top of the lineup. But Kendall Diggs has certainly, done a great job there at the top of the lineup. I would assume that Josenberg would go back into the top spot, and maybe Diggs would settle in at number 2 or 5th, depending on whether you have Peyton Stovall in the lineup. But he's not expected, as we go into this, not expected to be there playing tonight. Neither is Jared Wegner. But the length of the lineup looks a lot better with what has happened since the top 3 in the order have really been out with injuries.
So, as far as the rest of the guys that are on the injury list that you see coming back, who do you see outside of Josenberger coming back sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I was saying, I think that you have all 3 of them back for Vanderbilt next weekend. I think that's kind of what they're shooting for. I know that Wagner's having trouble holding the bat after getting the pins out of his thumb, and you have to be able to do that, to be in the lineup and function. You certainly don't want him to get him, excuse me, hurt again. But Stovall, I think, should be ready to go next weekend. They're being guarded with him. I think that's another good decision. But this series with Vanderbilt next weekend, if Arkansas takes care of business this week and Vanderbilt takes care of business next week, it will be for the for the conference championship. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. LSU's hanging out there a half game back of both of these teams. So it's 2 key weeks here. I do think that all of those teams I just mentioned, along with South Carolina, even though they've skidded here at the end, are still very in the mix for national seeds, and it's a big deal. You can go on the road and win if you're not a national seed and make it to the College World Series. There's plenty of teams that did it, but it sure is easier to do when you're home. It costs a lot less money for Hogville. I know that, and you make a lot more money if you're the University of Arkansas. They're playing here instead of having to go on the road.
Yeah, and with Arkansas's body of work, we kind of touched on this a little bit last week too. You can have maybe not such a you can afford to have a loss or 2 in both of these series. You may not get the West, that's fine, but the body of work dictates that Arkansas should be getting a national seed. I mean, they're going to be a top 8 whenever the final poll comes out, going into SEC play in the SEC tournament, and I I've been kind of watching a little bit on the national, with the national scale on ESPN, where they kind of project some of the teams, and you look at possibly Arkansas and Oregon State matching up here. Also, maybe even Arkansas and Texas. Can you believe, or can you imagine Arkansas and Texas fighting to go to a super regional?
Yeah, and the Arkansas and Texas at the start of the year, when I went down to cover the tournament in Arlington, had a massive crowd down there, and I'm sure it would be even more venomous with Arkansas fans up here. Obviously, I don't know that the younger segment knows how intense that rivalry was back in the day because they know SEC is to the Southwest Conference. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We will find out, I guess, a week from Sunday, or a week from Monday, where all that goes down. But I think that there are several potential fun teams that could come here. And usually, the NCAA usually does a pretty good job at putting somebody here that could beat Arkansas, and also a fourth team that is somebody that you might not have heard on the national scale, but has a senior or older veteran team that has dominated their league and brings in one pitcher that you better be ready to go that first day.
Yeah, you talk about that, and like NJIT from a year or two, from 2 years ago, and there was such that's more of a love fest between both of the schools, because they really didn't have that much of a fan base to follow them anyway, and so Arkansas fans just kind of adopted them and said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna pull for you guys over here because you all deserve it." They played a hell of they took Arkansas to task, and then Arkansas ended up finally beating them. I do believe it was in the 8th inning where they finally kind of got ahead. But you have some of those smaller teams that do come in here, and I think it creates a great environment that Hog fans do show up for. But then whenever you have those competitions and they're so close, and they are going toe to toe, it just makes the atmosphere so much more better.
And here could be one situation that I've been looking at a little. If Arkansas gets to host the softball regional, do you bring UCA up here? That's the closest, that would be the closest thing to them. UCA has beat Arkansas twice this year.
Yeah.
Once here and once down there.
Home.
I don't know if Arkansas would want to see them, but then again, maybe they do. Maybe that strokes the competitive fires and all that. But that certainly would make logistical sense in bringing them up here. They've had a great year, I think ranked 22 in the country. And I don't think that until they beat Arkansas, that the general public realized how good a program they've had down there in the ASUN. And, I've grown to have a lot of respect for both their coach and their players. And that to me, the fact that, Arkansas has certainly had a great program, but the fact that UCA has a great one now just helps softball in the state. I remember a long time ago when me and a few guys were helping to get Fayetteville's fast pitch going, and it's really grown in the state from just the origins that it had.
Yeah, most definitely. And I would love to get Courtney Deifel's inner thoughts whenever if that did happen, because I imagine it will be welcomed, but at the same time, it would be one of those, are you kidding me? The UCA, come on.
Yeah, but you know what? Certainly the two teams will be very familiar with each other, and you wonder how that would play into something because they both got great pitchers, and that's one thing about last night. 169 pitches by Shanice Delsey, and I think she had 170 down there when they played Alabama, and Fouts had 169 or vice versa. It is just you look at baseball these days and where they have to go three batters and stuff, and you're left-handed specialist and all of that, and I'm thinking, dudes, I don't want to hear about your arm.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things with softball too, is that you just sit there and they just keep throwing and they keep throwing, they keep throwing. You're like, is this thing gonna fall off at 150 pitches? But then it just keeps on going. I saw Shanice after the game leaving the stadium, and she was just tired. You could just tell her just like from head to toe, physically, mentally wore out. I looked at her and yelled at her and was like, "Hey, that was a hell of a game last night." And she just kind of had this look and she's like, "Thanks." So she laid it out there. She laid it all on the line last night.
Yeah, and she's done that so many times for Arkansas since she's transferred over from Tulsa. Obviously, she was the first two. Oh, hey man, I gotta step out for a minute. I got something going on in the backyard. Sorry.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, with the looming regional that's coming on next weekend, we'll find out the more of the details of the NCAA regional on Sunday. So you'll either have a split where Arkansas will be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Depends on where they are seated in that regional and where everything is at there. So I think we got Dudley back on here. I'll do like the baseball.
I've said the pool is open and had one puppy go ahead and get in. We're not ready for that yet.
I got a burrow of baby rabbits in the backyard. My beagle tries to get them, and I've been trying to persuade him to not touch those things at all. The quicker they get grown up, the quicker they leave. So, all right, so we're gonna move on to buy or sell here. Last segment of the show today. I'm going to touch on last night. We kind of talked a little bit about this, Dudley, and can Jason Tatum have another night like last night and win the series?
Well, they can have a fourth quarter like that and win it, but I'm not sure about having the first three quarters. I was amazed that they still were around when he had 1 point. He certainly took over in the fourth quarter. That's what superstars are supposed to do. Surely being back home, even though he's had bad first quarters in this series, surely, with that, maybe he's got some confidence back and can have a good first quarter. But it's going to be interesting. We'll be at 2:30 or at 7, I guess, depending on what happens tonight with Otis's Lakers and the Warriors. I'm just happy again that Jason Tatum didn't have to go out on a bad game and have to think about it the rest of the summer. Same way with Joel Embiid. Now James Harden's used to that stuff, so.
He is, and we're only doing 2 questions today because it's you and I both got wore out last night with softball. We're turning back around quickly. Again, you're heading out to Baum. I'm going to Bogle. Last question, and you kind of alluded to that. Can the Lakers avoid a massive meltdown?
Well, seeing as how LeBron is the second best player ever, Anthony Davis has played great, and they've had some auxiliary guys really play well. I think surely the Lakers will take it at home tonight. But if they don't, that would be quite a game on Sunday, and I'm guessing that's why it's scheduled for 2:30 if it does happen. I can't see a LeBron team letting go of a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, that's you see LeBron, and if that happens, I don't know if it'll really take a hit to his overall body of work, but you start to wonder, is there going to be some chips in the bridge and a little bit of chink in the armor there with him getting up in his years of age there?
I know Otis is hoping that the Celtics don't fall flat for me, and I'm hoping the same way with him. I'm not necessarily rooting for the Lakers, but I'm not rooting against them, which is a wholly different thing. And I don't want to see Otis's head explode, especially if he has to watch the TNT crew afterwards. So,
oh my gosh,
maybe we can have a Lakers Celtics finals, and I'll break out my my T-shirt with the 17 World Championships on it, and Otis will break out his with for the Lakers. So that might be a fun little back and forth. We might have to facilitate that if that does come down to the line, because
I think we could have some pretty spirit. We might have to put the explicit label on the bottom for that show, but I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know, I hope both teams get there. Certainly hope my team gets there first. But you know, good luck to him and his Lakers tonight. And you know, it helps that Austin Reeves is on the Lakers. That helps me a little bit. So.
Most definitely. All right. Well, Dudley, appreciate jumping on and try to get a little power nap before you head to bomb. And I'm going to try to do the same here myself here in a little bit. And well, thank you for coming on again. And this has been the Razorback Baseball Report with Dudley Dawson. I am your host, Jason Pattison, and I'll be tweeting live at Bogle, and Dudley will be tweeting live at Bomb. Y'all have a great day.